What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be going over all of Manchester United's season in this one. The 2020-2021 seasons come to an end for basically everyone except obviously the Euros, and Manchester United's season is done, and today we're basically going to go over all of the seasons. We're going to check out each competition from the Premier League, Europa League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, to also doing player ratings, thanks to the United Stand, obviously a great channel. We're basically do player ratings for all the players, and then we're going to look at statistics and things like that and just more analysis. And we might get a little bit to talk about next year, but that'll probably be for a separate video. Either way, Manchester United. We're quickly going to run down, how they finish in each competition. So as you can see on your screen, they got second in the Premier League. They lost in the final of the Europa League. As you can see, they lost to Villarreal. They also then lost to Leicester City in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. In the Carabao Cup, they lost to Man City in the semifinal, which was one leg this year, and they lost 2-0. And then in the Champions League, as we know, they ended up getting third in their group, which is what knocked them down to the Europa League, which almost gave them a trophy. We also have a couple tabs we're going to check out for scoring and things. But let's just start off with the overall competitions. So I want to start off with one of the smaller competitions, the Carabao Cup. It's probably the smallest competition that they were in, but it's still a big one. It's the second Cup of England. I still think they should get rid of it. You should only have one cup, in my opinion. I think it's a good idea to have just a main cup, like, FA Cup, DFB Pokal, or Copa del Rey, and then have like some sort of community shield at the beginning. I don't think you need all three. But either way, we're going to quickly look at Manchester United's journey in here. So Manchester United, as being, not like a bad or lower team, they were not in the first round, nor were they in the second round. They were put in the third round, which I believe has 32 teams to start. So they were placed in with 32 teams to start. Most Premier League teams are placed in second round, but they are placed in the third round, being, one of the better Premier League teams on paper. And they started off with a 3-0 win against Luton Town, expected. They kind of rotated the squad. Mata, Rashford, Greenwood scored, all that nice stuff as they won, as expected. Then they got Brighton, which wasn't that too bad of a draw either, and they won that comfortably 3-0. Scott McTominay, Juan Mata again, and then Paul Pogba scoring. So it really wasn't hard up to the quarterfinal. Quarterfinal got a little bit tougher with Everton, but they handled that 2-0 with 2 late goals thanks to Cavani and Martial. And then they played in the semifinal, which was one leg this year, and they could not pass Man City as John Stones and Fernandinho scored for them, and that's the end of their journey. In the Carabao Cup, personally, I say that it's not bad, not good. It's not one of the competitions we should prioritize. I think definitely we were trying to prioritize, the Premier League, and if there was a cup we would care about more, it would be the FA Cup. But really, we got semifinal last year and lost to City. Same thing happened this year, so not much of an improvement. But at least it's not a downgrade, and personally, I'm not too mad about it. It's just a side cup, and that's really all I got to say about that. So now if we move on to the FA Cup here, that's obviously the bigger cup in England, and there's a lot more teams and a lot more rounds. We are placed into the third round with, I believe, 64 teams, and we're placed against Watford, and that's an easy draw, but it wasn't super easy. We won 1-0 thanks to a McTominay goal in the 5th minute, and that's all it took. You can see the stats though, it's kind of pretty equal across, but in the end you got through. Then we advanced to the 4th round, which is the round of 32. That's where we got drawn Liverpool, and that was a big one where we won 3-2 thanks to, remember, Bruno Fernandez, incredible free kick, Greenwood and Rashford scoring, and it was just, better than Salah's brace. And you can see the stats, it was very equal. It's just that free kick was absolutely extraordinary. Then we move on to the 5th round, which was the round of 16, and we definitely got an easier draw than Liverpool. We got West Ham, but it took extra time. Scott McTominay scoring again in the cup. We dominated the game, but it just took a while to break them down. And then the quarterfinals, that's where we got a tougher draw with Leicester, and things just fell apart. Iheanacho scored a brace, Tielemans, Greenwood scored, but just wasn't like us, and that's the end of our FA Cup journey. And personally, I think it was a disappointment. Not saying, oh, we should have won it, but being in the semifinals of both the FA Cup and Carabao Cup last year, I wanted to try to maybe at least to get to the semifinals again, or at least get to the final of one. And if we got to the final of the Carabao Cup and the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, I'd be fine, because I'd be like, okay, at least we got to the final of one of them. But the fact that we downgraded in the FA Cup and didn't improve in the Carabao Cup, kind of a disappointment. And Leicester City, yes, they are a great team, but during this time, in the March 21st, Leicester City were kind of starting their downfall. The only thing that they're really getting going for them was Iheanacho, who completely destroyed us. It was just a poor game in general, and I'm not too happy with the FA Cup. So if I had to give like a rating out of 10 for the Cups, I'd say Carabao Cup's just a solid 6 out of 10 average, and then the 6 is going to be the average score, just so you know. FA Cup, I'd probably give a 4 out of 10, and then averaging out, I'd probably give a 5 out of 10, so just slightly below average. We'll talk about next year and the expectations for that. So now let's move on to the European competitions. We have the Champions League, which is where we got put in, as you know, after we finished third in the Premier League in the 2019-20 season. After lockdown, we did really well at the end, and yeah. Personally, it was a disappointing group, very, very disappointing. It was hard and tough that we got Group H. It was annoying. We started off excellent with a win against PSG and a huge 5-0 win thanks to a Rashford hat-trick against RB Leipzig. But then things did not go well. We lost to Istanbul Baskashir, if you remember, in match day number 3. There's a 5-0 win, but match day number 3 we lost to Istanbul Baskashir thanks to a terrible defensive mistakes from our team. Demba Ba got the easiest goal. Martial equalized, or Martial got one back, but it just wasn't enough. And I think that was really what hurt us. We got them back in the second time. We beat them 4-1. But then after that, we lost to PSG. It got a red card from Fred, I believe. And then after that, it was a loss to Leipzig. And yeah, we could have maybe done better against PSG and Leipzig. We beat them both once. We beat them both twice. We basically beat everyone once, and we lost to everyone once. And personally, if we just beat out Istanbul Baskashir both times, then we would have had 12 points, and we would have actually gone through in this group. And that's the thing. It was all because of the Istanbul Baskashir, really. That's the game that really, I think, decided the group. And if we just won that game, we would have been 12 points out of 12 going into the last 2 games, which basically is enough to go through unless some crazy goal difference happens. And that's just basically the summary of it. It was obviously a tough group, probably the toughest group in the league, or in the Champions League, but with a team like Istanbul Baskashir, nothing against them, but weaker teams you gotta win. Just like, for example, Group G, Juventus and Barca against Ferencvaros, they need to be taking 6 out of 6 points. In Group F, you can see Dortmund need to be taking out 6 out of 6 points from Zenit. You just gotta be taking out 6 out of 6 points against those lower teams, and we did not, and that's what really cost us. So then because of that, we moved on to the Europa League and was put in the round of 32. Personally, I actually don't like the idea of the third place in the Champions League going down to the Europa League. I don't think you should be given a second chance. If you get out, you're out. They actually might be scrapping that. But you know what? I've never been a fan of that, but this year maybe I was a fan of it, because then United would have been out, and that would have been more disappointing. I would say big clubs would probably be against that idea just for the chance of, getting third. But either way, round of 32, and at the time, we probably got one of the harder draws, if not the hardest, Real Sociedad, who was doing really, really well. Obviously, they didn't do that well, though, against us. We smashed them 4-0 thanks to Bruno Fernandez brace, Rashford, and then James adding on. And then, that just led to a pretty easy second leg where we just let it go easy, kind of rotated the squad and won and drew 0-0, but to advance to the round of 16. And people were like, okay, Real Sociedad was a really tough draw. Let's try to get maybe an easier draw. And then they give us arguably one of the better teams left again, AC Milan, who were top of the Serie A at this time. Obviously, my gosh, they completely choked that. But they were top of the Serie A at this time. And the first leg, we drew 1-1. We kind of choked it at the end, bottled it at the end. Diallo scored his only goal of the season, and it was a very, very good header. And then in the second leg, we prevailed thanks to a Pogba goal, and yeah, we prevailed. Very close though. Real Sociedad we destroyed, but Milan was a bit harder. So then in the quarterfinals, we're like, okay, let's have an easier draw. And we got Granada. I don't think that was a tough draw. I think it was average. We could have got maybe easier. I'd say Slavia Prague, Dinamo Zagreb are a little bit worse. But in the end, we got through them. We beat them 2-0 in both legs. In the first leg, Rashford and Bruno, who are key men in scoring, scored. And then the second one, it was Cavani and then an own goal. And that led us to the semifinal, which we got Roma, and we destroyed them 6-2 in the first leg, which was absolutely incredible. Bruno, Cavani, Pogba, Greenwood all getting goals. And then in the semifinal second leg, we lost 3-2, but in the end, we prevailed, but it actually was pretty close. If it wasn't for David De Gea, we actually could have been on a big upset alert. And then the final, we played Villarreal, and it just fell apart. It just fell apart. It was, personally, if we want to go a little bit more in depth in this game, it's bad. It's a poor team selection. I have to kind of, a lot of people are saying this, and I think Pep and Ole both made the same mistake of not playing any CDM. We played all of our attackers, so he didn't make any subs, because why would you be bringing on, like, there's no attackers on the bench. There's Daniel James and Amad Diallo, but usually we have a Greenwood or a Rashford or a Pogba on the bench. We didn't have, like, that huge bench player, and that kind of costed us, and the subs were just poor. Personally, if I was Solskjaer, I would have played Fred and Pogba. And then the rest of the lineup, I would have actually played then Lindelof and Tuanzebe. And then we would have had, McTominay as a better sub. And then I would have brought on Diallo or James or Rashford, who did not look good at all. But that's how it went. Lindelof was at fault for the first goal. We got one back from Cavani. The comeback felt like it was going to be on, but penalties prevailed, and there was a crazy penalty shootout, and I feel bad for De Gea. Can't be blaming De Gea, though. There's no reason why it should have been going to him. So, that's a recap of all those competitions. One more competition, it's obviously the Premier League. Arguably the biggest competition for us. Some people say the Champions League, but Premier League was a big one this year. Obviously getting back into the Champions League, getting third last year. It was important to improve, and no one expected us to be title challengers, so if no one's expecting you to be first, the only way to improve from third place is to be second. We got second place, but still, we're far away from the title challengers. It was a steady season. It was slow at first. We were 15th after 3 match days, but then we started picking up place. We were top 4, I believe, after 7 or 8, and we just basically stayed in the top 4. We were first for a bit, but then we could tell that our squad and our depth is just not good enough to compete for the likes of Man City and things like that for a whole season, and then we kind of just stayed at a steady second place. We did make it close at the end, but personally, if it wasn't for the scheduling 3 games in 5 days, and we focused probably more on the Premier League, we probably could have gotten around 80 points, but there were some games that were taken a bit lightly because it wasn't that important. Second place to not be looked at as, oh, we're just one step away from the title. No, because Man City are completely ahead of us, and next year Liverpool are going to be back probably with way less injuries, and Chelsea are going to be probably better than ever, coming off a UCL win, and you never know with Leicester or Tottenham and things like that. So that's basically a recap of everything. Quick look at everything. In the EFL Cup, I think our grade should be a 6 out of 10, an average. In the FA Cup, it's a 4 out of 10 in my opinion, underperforming. But it wasn't super terrible, like losing to, Luton Town early on. That would have been like a 2 out of 10. In the Champions League, it's a 4 out of 10. I gotta give it. It's pretty poor. I don't want to say 3 out of 10. If it was like a normal group, I'd probably say 3 or 2 out of 10. But it was a tough group. But still, I'm giving a 4 out of 10, or maybe even a 3.5 out of 10. In the Europa League, I'm probably going to give a 7 out of 10. Yeah, to be fair, we lost the final, but it was above average. Making the final at least. Solskjaer, got over that semifinal hump. And if we won the final, it would have basically been a 10 out of 10 because you can't do much better than winning it. And in the Premier League, personally, I'm going to say 7 out of 10. People say, oh, second place, it doesn't mean anything because, it's the same as third place, really, and Liverpool weren't doing that well. But, you gotta give credit. We improved from last season, and that is what matters. Okay, so now it is time to do the player ratings here. This is thanks to the United Stand. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's just a great way to do player ratings. You can basically go through all of the players that played this season at least some minutes. There are a few players that actually played maybe 10 minutes this season that aren't on here. We're just gonna go through every single player one by one and kind of mark them out of 10. 6 it would be an average score, 10 would be they had an amazing season, 1 is okay, that's the worst season ever. So starting with David De Gea here. Personally, David De Gea, it's an interesting season because I think he personally saved us in some games. I think semifinal, he didn't make any big mistakes. Compared to the likes of Alisson, who made many big mistakes this year, De Gea didn't really make many too big mistakes, but he was kind of being replaced with Henderson throughout the year, and it was kind of annoying. But I think he had a pretty quality season. I think it was definitely better than the last 2 seasons. Not as good as the Golden Glove season, not at all. That's hard to compare with. But I would give him a 7, and people said 6.6. Interesting. So then next would be Dean Henderson. Wait, I went too far. Dean Henderson is next. Dean Henderson, this is his breakthrough season, and he's probably going to be mad he didn't play in the final, especially with the penalty shootout and things. I think it was the right call to play De Gea in the final, but I do think if I was still Solskjaer, I would actually stub on Henderson for De Gea for the penalty shootout only, simply because De Gea is just not good at penalties. I think that's his weakness. But Dean Henderson, he had a lot of clean sheets, but he had mistakes at times and showed why he's not ready to be a superstar, but he could be offered for the future, and with De Gea's future in doubt, he could be the starter next year. I'll just give him a 6, and that's what most people actually said. Aaron Wavasaka is an interesting one, though, because Aaron Wavasaka, I think, people criticize him. He's not good going forward. He's not good on the attack. But he's improved. I mean, there's one game, I want to say, in the Europa League it was, where we subbed off Shaw and Wan-Bissaka halfway through the game, just because we were up by so much. And then we brought on Telles and Brandon Williams, and our defense fell apart. I think Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are really important for our defense, and people don't realize. Wavasaka, I think, improved this season. His one-on-one defending is amazing. He actually got a decent amount of assists, not as many as Shaw or some of the attackers like Bruno and Rashford, but he still got a lot, and I think he's really improving. And there's more signs of improvement. He just needs to improve every year, and he can be a starter for years to come. I think he's only 23 or 24, and I'm gonna give him a 7 for this season. Brandon Williams, I kind of feel bad for him. He kind of he didn't play much for 2 reasons. One, because Wawasaka is better than him, right? And also on the other side you have Sean Telles. So how's he gonna get game time? He could have played a little bit more, I think, for Wambasaka, but Solskjaer doesn't like to rotate much. So there is a possibility he should go on loan, but I feel bad for him because it's one of his important seasons. As playing, he played like a 5. I will say that some of the reason he does get a 5 is because he's rusty and he needs to get more playing time. But yeah, that's it's a season where he probably should have been on loan or something, or maybe just given more time for Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka, I believe, played the 3rd most minutes in the team, behind only Bruno and Rashford. Next, we have Victor Lindelof, and Lindelof was, I think, the center back who played the most minutes for us. Maybe it was Maguire, but Maguire kind of got hurt at the end of the season. And Lindelof, he showed his great signs and his terrible signs. Basically, he's amazing at long balls, but he's terrible in the air. He's very soft. He gives up a lot of goals that you would think, oh, Harry Maguire's all over that, but he's just not strong physically. And I think Lindelof had a really poor season, in my opinion, but Solskjaer backs him. I think he could be a starter next season still, especially if we don't sign a center back. I got to give him a 4, though. I really think he did not have a good season at all. I think Maguire's a better center back than him. I think Tuanzebe's a better center back. Maybe Bailly, but I think Maguire and Tuanzebe are definitely better. But he had a lot of time, and I don't think he did well at all. Okay, here's Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, our captain, he was really good this season, in my opinion. He didn't do well at the beginning, but first season with us last year, he showed his great signs of leadership, of being a captain, while also, struggling in many places. But then this year, it was kind of, an improving season. I think he definitely improved. I think we missed him a lot in the final. Not like, oh, he's like our star player. But I think he really had a quality season. I think next year, hopefully he can come back strong and do well. He's still got room to do even better and improve. We want to have him like a captain to lift trophies. But I'm actually going to give him a 7. I think he did pretty well. Eric Bailly is an interesting one. He's injury prone, but he played a decent amount of games, especially when Lindelof was not fit or when Maguire was not fit. But he just, he signed a new contract. I don't know why. I don't know why we gave him a new contract. We have Maguire. I probably prefer Lindelof slightly because Bailly's injury prone, and we have Tuanzebe, and it's possibly signing another center back. I don't know why we signed Bailly. Nothing against him, but nothing great from him this season. Nothing. It's just he's quick. That's one thing that helped a lot, but I'm just gonna give him an average 6. Axel Tuanzebe. Now this is an interesting one. Personally, I think Axel Tuanzebe is ready. I think some fans do think he's ready to start like the big games with Maguire. He had an amazing game against PSG. At the end of the season, he was like one of the best players on the pitch, if not the best for many of the times. He did have a bad game against Everton and Istanbul Baskashir, but you can't be good every game. He's literally been rusty the whole season. He needs more time. Personally, I think he deserved to start in the final. He was an excellent player, but he didn't get enough time. And I'd give him first performances, I'm giving a 7 or an 8, but I'll still bump him down to a 7. 6 is interesting because I say he's a 7 because he did really well. The only thing that sets him back is he just did not get enough time. Next year, looking at this defense for the center back position, I think we keep Maguire, we keep Tuanzebe, we sell Lindelof or Bailly, and then we sign a 4th guy. Where Maguire and Koundé, or Maguire and Varane will probably be our starters. Tuanzebe could, though, be our substitute, our first substitute, and then probably the next guy, Bailly or Lindelof, would just be reserves. I seriously think Tuanzebe is ready, and he is a future. He's not 18 years old, but center backs don't really do well at the age of 18, 19. Think of all the teenagers that are center backs that play a lot. There's not many. Tuanzebe is a center back. I think still got years to come, but we just got to use him properly. He has really good leadership skills. Now, here's Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw, man, I've always thought he's a great left back. I was even saying when I first started supporting, 2 years ago, when Luke Shaw is fit, he's a top 5 left back in the world. I was always saying that. You could be saying, oh, you're capping. No, I'm not. But, Mourinho's gone. Solskjaer and really turned him into a great left back. Probably one of the best left backs in the world, up there with the likes of Jordi Alba this year and other great ones. His season was amazing. He kind of didn't do as well at the end of the season. I'd probably give him like an 8.5. I'm just going to give him a 9. He did really, really well. You got to give him a 9. He was one of the best left backs in the world. He created so many chances, was amazing on the left side, and that's what deserves you a 9. Alex Telles is our next guy, and we brought him in, and it was interesting why we brought him in. People thought, oh, he could be our starter, but really what he did was he just motivated Luke Shaw to do better. So he helped Shaw. Telles didn't get enough game time, but how is he supposed to get game time with Luke Shaw? Solskjaer could rotate the squad more, but Luke Shaw is amazing. But Telles, he still doesn't look amazing defensively. He could do a little bit better. He's just the Portuguese league, which is a lot more attacking. And he kind of made a name for himself in the Portuguese league with all his attacking abilities, not too much defending. I'm giving him a 5 though, simply because he didn't get enough time, and when playing he was a little bit rusty. Okay, here's McFred. Starting with Fred, he was probably our number 1 CDM this year. Who else is going to be our defensive midfielder? McTominay's not a defensive midfielder. Pogba's not a defensive midfielder. Matic was terrible. And so he is our number 1 guy, and we definitely need to improve this position. I say sign Ndidi. People say sign Rice. I think Ndidi's a way better option. But Fred, very poor this year. 4. 4 for me. McTominay, he showed glimpses of how he can be great, for sure. He can score goals, he can go up and down the pitch. He had an amazing game against Leeds and things. I remember we were going over some of the competitions in the cup games. There were 2 or 3 cup games where he was the deciding goal. He had some good signs, but then again, he looked really bad in many games, which is I just got to give him a 5. I think he can definitely stay at the club. He has a future for sure. Just got to develop him more. I don't think he's ready to start. I think a Van de Beek or a Pogba is better than him at that position. We'll just see how that goes. Next up, we have Nemanja Matic and Van de Beek. Matic was really good last year, especially in lockdown. And this year just shows how he's aging. He's now a translator. He's just aging and getting to the end of his career, and you can't do much about that. I would give him a 4, but I'm going to give him a 5 simply because I have to understand that he's just aging, and that's a normal part of the game. Van de Beek, I'm also going to give a 5. Simply not because he did poorly, but he just didn't get enough time, and it's a wasted season. I don't know why we really bought him. I think Matic was almost used as most. Towards the end of the season, Van de Beek was a little bit more used, but like, he should have been starting with Fred. It should have been a Fred Van de Beek or, Van de Beek on one of the sides. Like, he's better than Fred. He's better than McTominay. I don't know why he didn't get enough time. Mata, he showed that he's also aging, but personally, he scored a lot of goals. He actually, not a lot, but he scored like 4 or 5 goals this season, the key ones. And, he scored probably a sending off goal against Wolves in that penalty. I think it's time for him to move on. He's not at the level he is anymore, but I'll give him a 6 just because, he was a great guy and his performances just show that he's aging. Paul Pogba's an interesting one. This guy is so much drama between him. Oh, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here. Oh, I'll play and hit you a nice 25-yarder outside the box to beat Fulham. It's like he's up and down. He played in the midfield. He played on the left. He did really well this season, though, I think. The only thing I'd mark him down for is just, the drama he creates and maybe some of the injuries he sometimes has. But personally, I'm giving him a 7. I think he did pretty well, and most people said that. Now it's Bruno Fernandez. I think our captain when Maguire was out, our main guy, our Portuguese Magnifico, led the team in goals, led the team in assists. I mean, not a 10. Not a 10. He's not like, one of the best. Like, the 10 is really hard to get. Gotta give him a 9, though. He was absolutely extraordinary. Without him, what are we gonna do? I think without him, we could probably get around 4th or 5th in the league, possibly. But without him, I think we would be playing a Van de Beek there. And Van de Beek's not bad or anything. That's just Bruno is such a great player. People say, oh, penalties, all that stuff. I mean, you got to see all the chances he creates. He creates a lot of chances. I think it's like number 1 and number 2 in the Premier League for chances created. Got to give him a 9. Diallo's an interesting one. Someone who should have played more. But Solskjaer doesn't rotate the squad much. I say that for a lot. He just should have played more. I think after Rashford, after Greenwood on the wings, and after Pogba on the wings, he's probably next up, him or Dan James. And I'm going to give him a 6. He had a good goal, but didn't have enough time to do much. Greenwood's an interesting one. Beginning of the season, terrible. End of the season, did pretty well. And I think when you average it out, it just becomes an average 6. People give him a 7. That's a really dumb decision. I think it's just because of the end of the season. But if you don't remember the way beginning of the season, how we were struggling, without him doing well and without Martial doing well, that's why I give him a 6. Yeah. Shortire, he got a little bit of playing time, but you can't say much. I'm just going to give him a 6. Lingard is interesting because it seems like he was gone the whole year for United, but he was actually at Manchester United up until January. He just barely played. He barely played. At Manchester United this year, he was a 4 or a 5. When he moves to West Ham, he was amazing. So if we want to include the West Ham, I'm personally going to give him a 6, just because he was terrible at United because he didn't play and he didn't look good. At West Ham, though, he was excellent. Daniel James, not ready to start, but he's shown a little bit signs of how he can do great things, but it wasn't a good season for him. Gotta give him a 5. Okay, Marcus Rashford, I guarantee you he's going to have a worse score than Greenwood. He's probably going to have a worse score than Cavani, which I think is dumb because if we look at the stats, which I'm going to show you after this, he was 2nd in goals. He was 2nd in assists. He was one of our main players after Bruno. Bruno was our main player all year. But in the attack, he was our 2nd best player for basically from the beginning of the year until about January or February. But people are not going to remember that, that's when, I don't think people remember, but Bruno and Rashford were like our main guys from the beginning of the season until January, because Greenwood up until January and February had just like 2-3 goals, Martial 2-3 goals, Cavani was injured and barely playing, and Rashford and Bruno were like our main guys, but no one's going to remember that. But he was our 2nd best attacker after Bruno, in my opinion. He had a terrible finish to the season, but I'm going to give him a 7, maybe a 6.5. He got a 6.4. The fact that Greenwood has almost a 1 whole rating above him is dumb in my opinion, but that's my take on him. I feel bad for Rashford, though. He should have been subbed off in the final, but he's injured. And I kind of hope that Southgate doesn't choose him in England just so he gets a rest. He needs a rest. People say get him out of here. No, he's really, really good. He just needs a rest and needs to come back refreshed for next year. Addison Cavani, people are going to probably give him like an 8. I'm going to give him a 7. He was amazing at the end of the season. Wow, everyone said 8. the problem is that he was only good at the end of the season. Like, he scored like 16, 17 goals or whatever, but at the beginning of the season, he didn't do anything. He's like a ghost. He was basically a ghost. So, that's why I give him a 7. I'd say 6 or 5 for the beginning of the season, 8 for the end of the season, averaging out to a 7. Anthony Martial coming off, 17 league goals, which is, he was first or second in scoring last year. I think Rashford just edged him by like 1 goal last year in scoring. Terrible season this year. But next year, people say, oh, sell him. I think we keep him, because what we can do is we can play Rashford on the left, Bruno Cam, up top Cavani, right side would be Greenwood, or if we sign someone, and then Martial would be a bench player, but that would make Martial more hungry to do better and get motivated. So I think that's a big part of that. So I'm going to personally give him a 4. It's a really terrible season, but hopefully next season he's motivated. Anthony Longa, the last player on this list besides before the coach. He didn't play much. He did score a goal. That was pretty cool. Probably not ready to play first team. I don't think he's at the level of Diallo or, Dan James or anything like that. I think next year he shouldn't be in the academy. Shouldn't be playing there. He's better than that. I think probably should go on loan or something. I'll give him a 6, though. Maybe you could give him a 7 for that goal, but okay, 6. Solskjaer is interesting. People say, oh, he's at fault for the final. Oh, he doesn't make subs. Oh, his team selection sucks. Oh, he doesn't use players enough. I agree with a lot of that. But also, he didn't win any trophies, but he led us to second in the Prem, a semifinal, quarterfinal, and the final. When you look at all that, I think we could have done better with the squad we have. I think the squad we have right now is good enough to win trophies. It's just you got to use it right. He doesn't really use it right, but he didn't do terrible. So I'm just going to give him an average 6, simply because he did show improvement, but next year is the make or break. Next year, I can really see 3 possibilities. I could see 1, we stumble, we get 5th or 6th, then he gets sacked early. Second possibility is we improve, we win a trophy, in the cup or something, we get closer to the Premier League title, but not quite there, and we just make it to the Champions League knockouts. Third thing is we do the exact same thing this season, we don't improve, we don't not improve, and then he gets sacked simply because he's not making any progress. I hope the first option happens, but, the first option would be, winning trophies, which is the next step he's got to take. He could stall out and not do anything, which is possible, or he could be like Mourinho and be 5th or 6th after half the season and get sacked. But yeah, that's going to be it for all these player ratings. I know it's a long video, but we're recapping a whole season. Bruno Fernandez got to be my player of the year. He's probably if I got to say 3 players of the year, I'm saying Bruno's number 1. I'm going to say Shaw is number 2, and Rashford is 3. No one's going to say Rashford's 3, but people only remember the end of the season. I'll submit the vote. I believe Bruno Fernandez is the main guy, and yes, he is. Okay. So now it's time to go to some statistics here. So on the screen, we basically have statistics of the whole season. This is all competitions. We're going to do individual competitions, which is right here, which we'll do later. But this is basically all competitions, who let in goals and all that stuff. So across all competitions, we're talking Europa League, Champions League group, Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. No preseason or anything. Just those 5 competitions. Bruno led our team with 28 goals. Rashford had 21. Addison Cavani had 17. Greenwood had 12. Martial had 7. McTominay had 7. Pogba, James, Mata. Wavasaka had a couple. Maguire had a couple. And then we have a bunch of other players having a little bit of goals. Yeah. And then assist-wise, it's very similar list to this goal scoring. Bruno's first again, Rashford second. We have to sort it by assist though. It makes Pogba and Shaw third. Cavani and Greenwood, Martial, Wavasaka. Wavasaka actually had 5. I did not know Wavasaka only had 1 less assist than Shaw. That actually makes things interesting. Mata and Tellez had a couple. McTominay, James, Van de Beek, Fred, Lindelof, Maguire, Ahmad, and even Eric Bailly had 1. So that's the goals and assists there, and looking at it, and you look at the top, Bruno deserves it. And the second spot is interesting. I think you gotta say second spot is either Rashford or Cavani. Rashford has 33 goal contributions. Cavani only has 22. But you look at it, and Rashford's played 57 games. Cavani's played 39. That that does include, getting subbed on and stuff. But you look at goals per 90 minutes, Rashford only has 0.46, Cavani has 0.70. Minutes per goal, Rashford's about a little over 2 games, Cavani's about just not even 1.5 games. And the conversion rates, Cavani has it better than Bruno and better than Rashford. And you look at it and you're like, okay, Addison Cavani is more of a goal scorer. And he should be. He should be having more goals. Assist-wise, Rashford's definitely better in that category, which makes sense. He's a winger. And it's just tough because Cavani, if he was great the whole season, he probably would have been up there with Bruno in goals. Thing is with Marcus Rashford is that he was injured, man, for a lot of the season. He just needs a break. I hope he really does not play with Southgate. I hope Southgate just plays Sterling most of the time, or Grealish on that left wing. I really hope he doesn't use Rashford much. Nothing against Rashford, but he just needs a rest. He needs a rest. But looking at everything else, Greenwood had an okay season. This is the thing. All your attackers are not going to have quality seasons. All your attackers are not going to have quality seasons. There's always going to be that one person that doesn't do well. And this year is really Martial. He only played 36 games. But looking at it, though, Greenwood, people are marking him on those player ratings like he's way better than Martial. He's not. Greenwood only had 5 more goals, and he played 16 more games. It wasn't that much better. Just saying. McTominay had some contributions. Paul Pogba, he doesn't score as many goals anymore, which actually I think is a good sign. When he was scoring goals way back when, 3-4 years ago, that was because our team was way worse in the attack. So now it's better, and he doesn't have to score as much. And you got a few other things that stand out. Daniel James has a sum there. Juan Mata had actually 3 goals, 3 assists, and 18. That's actually decent for, his caliber. But I saw those were penalties and things like that. You can see Shaw and Wavasaka with that 7 goal contributions assist-wise. Looking at the table and this stuff, you look at it, we'll include Longa, see him there with that 1 goal against the Wolves. But if I want to go through each player, Bruno, he did fine. Rashford, maybe a little bit of improvement, more consistency, but it's hard, man, with his injuries and stuff like that. Cavani, just be good, play like you did in the second half for the whole half of the season. Greenwood's got to improve a little bit. Martial's definitely got to improve. McTominay did all right, maybe more assists. Paul Pogba did fine, I think. Daniel James, a little bit of more. Juan Mata, can't really judge him. He didn't play much. Wavasaka, maybe some more assists, but did all right. Maguire, maybe some more headers. That's about it. Luke Shaw, I think, did fine. Donny van de Beek, 36 appearances, but a lot of those were for 5. I think Donny van de Beek, yeah, he got 36 appearances, but how many of those were against with the second team? So he didn't have as many good players around him, and how many were just for 5 minutes? Fred, I think maybe more assists from him. He just scored out 1 goal. Lindelof, I don't know, maybe some improvement. And then there's Imad and Elanga. And then looking at the competitions, it's very similar. Who's up top in the Premier League? It's once again the same players. Bruno's first, Rashford's second in both. Cavani's third, Greenwood's fourth, McTominay's 5th. It's pretty similar. It's just an assist. We got Shaw and then Wambasaka next spots. And if we go to the other competitions, you see the Europa League. It's going to load here. Cavani was actually first. Bruno and then Rashford. That's the usual. Bruno's first in assist. You got Fred, actually, and then Cavani. Champions League, I believe Rashford was first because of that hat trick. And you got Bruno as usual up there. Martial is there. Paul Pogba and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, assist-wise. So, not too many, it's just the usual thing throughout. FA Cup, Greenwood was first. Rashford was first in assists. Obviously, the Cup's going to vary because you don't play as many games in the Cup. And the Carabao Cup, we got Juan Mata and Rashford. You got Marcus Rashford and assists. Just things like that. That's going to be it for this one, guys. We basically went through the whole season, and in the end of the day, Manchester United season, I'm giving a total of 6. Let's give it a 7 out of 10. No trophies, but improvement slightly from last year. Talking next year real fast, I think the goals in the Premier League should be, instead of getting second and being just 12 points off the title, I think you should try to be single digits off the title, and maybe challenge it for a little bit longer. We challenged for the title until about the 28th match day or so. It's kind of when it starts slipping away. In the Carabao Cup or FA Cup, One of them we can fail in. I just want one of them. We got to make the final. And then Champions League, let's make the knockouts this time and maybe make a little bit of a run. But yeah, that's going to be it. I know it's a long video where we're basically recapping a full season. So yeah, subscribe, like the content, like the video if you liked it, because that's what it's for. I'll see you guys on that next video. Make sure to check the Twitch in the description, Discord in the description, and more videos. See you guys then. Bye-bye.